If you're a construction professional in New Zealand, you live and breathe the building code. But today, we're going to step back and look at how the whole system actually works. So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at the big picture, what I like to call the regulatory pyramid. Then we'll break down each part, the Building Act, which is the why, the building code itself, the what, and the compliance pathways, which is the how. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together on a real project. Sound good? Let's dive in. The best way to get your head around this whole system is to picture a pyramid. Each layer rests on the one below it, and together they create a really logical structure that flows from high-level law right down to the nitty-gritty details of a build. So here are the 3 tiers. Right at the top, the peak of our pyramid, you've got the Building Act 2004. That's the law. Below that, you've got the New Zealand Building Code. That's where we get the technical standards, and holding it all up at the base are the compliance documents. Those are the practical tools you're using day to day to prove you're meeting the standards. Okay, let's kick things off at the very top of that pyramid with the Building Act. This is the absolute foundation for every single thing we do in the construction industry here. So, you can think of the Act as the big why. It's the reason this whole system even exists. It doesn't get into the weeds of nail spacing or flashing details, but it establishes the entire purpose and the principles of the game for absolutely everyone involved. The Act is what gives us our performance-based code in the first place. It clearly defines who's responsible for what: owners, designers, builders, the council. It lays out the entire consent process and the LBP scheme. And here's a really crucial point. It applies to all building work. Yep, even the stuff that's exempt from the consent. It all has to comply. Let's move one layer down the pyramid to the what, the technical heart of the system, the New Zealand Building Code itself. This little snippet from the Act is actually the key to everything. The code doesn't tell you how to build something. It tells you what performance your building has to achieve. It sets the standard, but it leaves the how you get there part up to you. This is what we mean when we say it's a performance-based system. And this shows that difference perfectly. A performance-based code just sets the goal. For example, clause E2 says your walls have to keep water out. It doesn't say what cladding you have to use. A prescriptive code, on the other hand, would give you a rigid recipe. The beauty of our model is that it gives you, the designer, the freedom to innovate and find the absolute best solution for your project. The code is broken down into all these clauses: B for structure and durability, C for fire, E for moisture, all the way to H for energy efficiency. Each one spells out the objective, the functional requirement, and the specific performance criteria your building has to meet. So we have the why from the Act and the what from the code. That leaves the $1 million question. How do you actually prove you've met the performance requirements? This brings us to the base of our pyramid, the how. Now, there are 3 main ways you can show you're complying with the code. One of them is, well, a whole lot more common than the others. Let's walk through them. First up is the most common path by far, the acceptable solution. Honestly, just think of this as the official recipe book. E2/AS, one is a classic example, right? It's a pre-approved step-by-step guide. If you follow it to the letter, the BCA must accept it as compliant. It's the safe, direct, and most traveled route. Next, we've got verification methods. Now this isn't a recipe, it's more like a scientific formula. It gives you an approved process for proving your design works through testing or specific calculations. For instance, an engineer using B1/V1 is a perfect example of using a verification method to prove a structural design meets the code's performance needs. And finally, there's the alternative solution. This is where you, the professional, get to really shine. This is for when you are doing something new, using innovative materials, or designing something that just doesn't fit the standard documents. The big catch? The burden of proof is totally on you to convince the BCA your solution works. Okay, theory is great, but let's put all this together and see how it actually plays out on a real project, from the very first plans right through to getting that final sign-off. So, a very early step is often to get a PIM, Project Information Memorandum. Think of this as the council giving you a heads up. It's where they flag any site-specific issues they know about, especially things related to other laws like the Resource Management Act. It's a crucial step to see the whole picture before you go too far. From that point on, it's a pretty clear path. You put together your consent application using one of those 3 pathways to show how your design meets the code. The BCA gives you the green light and the build starts. Then the BCA comes to site for inspections to check the work matches the plans. And once it's all done, you apply for the big one, the triple Cs. And that final step isn't just a suggestion. It's written right into the law. Section 92 of the Act makes it crystal clear that the owner must apply for that code compliance certificate once the work is finished. It's the official request for the final tick. And that triple Cs, that's the finish line. It's the official stamp from the BCA saying, yep, on reasonable grounds, we're satisfied this was built according to the consent. It's the crucial document that certifies the building has met the performance standards of the code and officially closes the loop on the entire process. So, when you boil it all down, understanding this framework, the why, the what, and the how is about so much more than just ticking boxes. It's about empowerment. Our performance-based system gives you the flexibility to innovate, and that leaves us with a really important question for the whole industry to think about. If you find this episode useful, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.